CNN's Priscilla Alvarez in Houston for us. She's joining us now, where Kamala Harris is going to be starting her day. Tell us more about what you're hearing about this new campaign video and what we're going to see today.
Kate, the vice president has had to strike a balance this week between acknowledging the president's abrupt departure from the presidential race while also defining her own campaign. And that is a glimpse of what we're getting this morning from that new campaign video released just moments ago. Take a listen.
There are some people who think we should be a country of chaos, of fear, of hate. But us, we choose something different. We choose freedom.
Now, the video also ticks through multiple issues: reproductive rights, gun violence, healthcare, and what will likely be a key theme of her campaign, that no one is above the law. Of course, Kate, where the vice president is going is notable. She was in Battleground, Wisconsin this week. That's where you see some of those images in that video. She was in Indianapolis yesterday talking to a black sorority. And today here in Houston, Texas, she's going to be speaking to the American Federation of Teachers, which is the second largest teachers union. So while she is on the campaign trail, she is talking about prosecuting the case against former President Donald Trump. But she's also articulating what it is exactly that's at stake at the election. That was something that she was already testing as the running mate to the president, and now she is taking it to a bigger stage as the Democratic candidate and expected Democratic nominee. Now, as you also mentioned, she'll be returning to Washington today, where she's going to meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. On policy, the president and the vice president have been on lockstep, but the vice president has also been the voice in the administration talking about the plight of the Palestinians. Remember those remarks in Selma where she described the deteriorating and dire conditions in Gaza. So you can expect that will be part of the conversation that she has with the Israeli prime minister as she closes out what has been a momentous week in this campaign, one that brought in endorsements, fundraising, and we expect a lot more to come. Kate?
Yeah, I mean, and just today, what's all going to happen is going to be a huge day ahead. Priscilla, thank you so much.
Moments ago, Politico released its morning playbook discussing what they call the race to define Kamala Harris, the vice president. Quote, some Democrats we talked to yesterday are starting to worry that the Harris campaign, which has raised some $100 million this week, isn't spending it fast enough to get Harris ads on the air in swing states to tell her story before it's told for her. Now, there is a new video out today. It hasn't been turned into a campaign commercial just yet. But with me now, Tim Hogan, Democratic consultant, former spokesperson for Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign, and CNN senior political commentator Scott Jennings. Tim, I do want to start with you because on this issue of defining Harris, it's now Thursday, and every day here, things move so quickly. But what more do you think the fledgling Harris campaign needs to do to define her, especially in response to these new attacks from Republicans calling her, dangerously liberal?
Yeah, leave it to Democrats to raise $126 million, best days in Act Blues history, and be worried. But yeah, she needs to get out there. She was out there in Milwaukee at her first campaign rally. She was in Indiana yesterday. I think what she's doing is laying a strong contrast, and you're hearing it everywhere she goes, that this is a campaign between a prosecutor and a convicted felon. This is someone who wants to protect reproductive rights versus someone who cheers that he was able to overturn Roe, and someone who is looking out for the middle class. And someone who has billionaire backers who they just want to give tax cuts to the wealthy for. But it really is about flooding the zone. And I don't think the Trump campaign has a good answer yet either for defining Harris. If you look at Trump's rally, they're sort of throwing the kitchen sink to see what sticks. And I don't think they know what their messaging is going to be going forward.
Interesting you say that, Tim, because in the New York Times today, our friend Maggie Haberman, along with Jonathan Swan, wrote about just that issue. They say, quote, for the first time since Donald J. Trump was indicted in the spring of 2023, he has lost grip on the news cycle, temporarily at least. His message, instead of commanding morning to night media attention, the former president and his allies suddenly find themselves reacting to their opponents, Scott, casting about for messaging. We had days of complaining about the process in the Democratic Party. We had the whole DEI comments, which I think the party establishment is trying to run from as fast as they can. But has Donald Trump been knocked a little off his feet?
Well, I mean, you know, is it his fault? I mean, the Democrats have done something so crazy, outrageous, and unprecedented here that, you know, it's hard to plan for when you let the votes of 14 million people be tossed out by the CEO of LinkedIn and Nancy Pelosi in the blink of an eye. I mean, it's not exactly his fault.
But see, Scott, that is the messaging I think we did hear for 2 days, and there are some Republicans saying that's not enough. You got to move past the process.
Look, here's the, well, I mean, you're the one who's attacking, or they're the ones attacking Trump for losing control of the news site. Look, here's the bottom line. There's an easy way to attack Kamala Harris. She was the most liberal senator when she served. She ran for president and laid out a bunch of positions that are not going to fly with the American people, including ending fracking in Pennsylvania. And she has been the number 2 person in an administration that 65% of the American people think has failed. It's very simple. They do not need to overthink it or overcomplicate it. There is an ad on the air in Pennsylvania from the Dave McCormick Senate campaign. He's the Republican nominee in Pennsylvania that pretty well lays it all out. There's an easy way to go about this, and I do agree with this reporting. The next 2 weeks is the race to definition of Kamala Harris. Can Trump and his people get to that message first, or can Harris and her people start to put a bit of a protective shield around her to guard her? I think the next 2 weeks is critical in who gets there first on how we're going to view Harris as a national figure.